Hey there, welcome back to my channel. So today I am doing a new tag video. It's a tag video that actually I've created and I decided to call Get Some Sense just because I thought it was penny and that's sort of my thing, obviously with my name and everything here on YouTube. But yeah, it's kind of an amalgamation of questions from the perfume makeup tag world, or the makeup tag world rather, that I've changed into perfume questions, and questions I just thought were interesting, questions about fragrances that I wanted to answer. And yeah, I've just grouped them all together. There's 10 to get through, and if you want to, at the end of this video, definitely share your answers to these in the comments below. I'm gonna tag a whole bunch of people that I'd love to see actual videos from, but if you do make videos and I've forgotten to tag you, then feel free to make your own version and let me know, because I'd love to check out whomever does a version of this. So without further ado, let's get into it. If you haven't subscribed already, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to follow me on Instagram, and let's get started. The first question, and I'm gonna read them off my phone, but they will be in the description box also, so you can see what order I'm going in, is what is your earliest fragrance memory? And this is something I've answered a couple times here on YouTube, but it's a little bit of a split answer for me, but I'm taking this as literally your first experience and memory with fragrance. It doesn't have to be the first fragrance that you own, because more than likely you had an experience with fragrance before you actually owned a fragrance of your own. And so it's literally your earliest fragrance memory. And for me, I was 3. Like, I distinctly remember, I don't really have a lot of memories before the age of 3, but when I was 3 years old, this was the fragrance that my mom wore. She actually still owns her bottle of this, but this is one that I bought myself, just so I'd always have it. So this is Casimir by Chopin. It's an eau de parfum. I got a tester version so that there's no cap, but there is just kind of like this slightly rounded with like a tip cap to it. Hers still has it, so and she still has a little bit of juice in hers, and surprisingly hers has not gone bad whatsoever. She doesn't wear it anymore, but the last time I tried it out and I went and actually tried out hers, it still smelled like this one. So I've just always wanted to own a bottle of this as well, just so I'd always have it. The memories of this, you guys, just bring me back. It is a really sweet, kind of like apricot jam, sort of powdery, but like really unique, honestly, kind of fragrance that ever since I picked it up, and I only picked it up, it's while I've had my channel that I actually picked this up. So for the majority of my fragrance journey, I didn't actually own a bottle of this, but it was always in the back of my mind that this is a fragrance. It's the first fragrance I remember ever smelling, because my mom smelled like this. So it's super nostalgic for me. She smelled like many other fragrances growing up, but this was the first one that I really remember. And it actually does stick around longer than you'd think. Her clothes smelled like this for long after she wore it. And fragrance just always smelled, I mean, I think we're all like this with our moms, but fragrance just like smells better on her. I think 9 times out of 10, a fragrance will smell better on her than it does on me. So anyways, I really love it. It's not a scent that I will wear on myself super often. I do find Taylor by Taylor Swift is sort of similar to this, and I've got other fragrances now in my collection that have a vibe of this as well. But yeah, this is my earliest fragrance memory. It is the first fragrance that I remember obviously loving, because it just like reminded me of my mom. But yeah, it's not the first fragrance that I owned by a very long shot, but that was that. And then question 2 is, what is your newest fragrance purchase? Now, you guys haven't seen this yet because the haul for this is actually coming up, so you'll see it very soon, but I thought I would just give a little sneak preview. But this is the newest fragrance that I've purchased. It's Un Jardin Après la Mousson in the Jardin series from Hermès. You guys, if you've been watching me, know I love this series. I was missing 2 and now I've got this one, so I'm literally only missing 1 now. And to find out more about what I think about it and everything, we will get to that haul, but I just wanted to be as honest as possible. And honestly, that is my newest fragrance purchase and the newest fragrance in my collection. Then question 3, what's a fragrance that you used to love and now you hate? So this one actually was pretty easy to choose because I haven't worn this in ages and it's disappointing to me. So this is Twin Women by Azzaro. Bottle aside, because I always get comments on the bottle when I show this, it was not a bottle I liked either, but lo and behold, I got this based on a recommendation from one of you guys when I was really adamant about getting the Nivea fragrance and I couldn't find it. And you'd said that this was similar. And so I picked it up, and as things go, literally a week later, one of you lovely subscribers actually offered to send me Nivea because it was being sold in your country. And so I think the proximity of having this and the original and having them to compare already put this one as being kind of already going to be my less favorite of the two. But also, it's not the opening of this that bothers me, but after a couple minutes, there's something sort of slightly sour that develops, and very, very clingy is the way I can put it. It's like, it's 80% of the way there of being something that I totally love and being clean and fresh and lotion-like and all that stuff that you'd think I'd like. And those are the things I do like. But once you start wearing it a couple times, or you just like have it on your skin, I will say incredible lasting power. I feel like every time I don't like a fragrance, it lasts forever. So in that case, great. If you like it, you get some good lasting power on it, surprisingly, because it's an eau de toilette. Like, why does that last so well? But the sillage of this is also something I don't enjoy. So when I'm wearing it and I'm moving about, one of the great things about fragrance is to have that kind of like lingering smell. And I hate the sillage on this. I don't know. It's whatever that sour, clingy, non-clean note, or, you know, combination of notes has actually just turned this into a kind of dislike for me. I've stopped wearing it for a while and I'm hoping I'll come back to it. And sometimes that changes things up for me, but it's gonna be a while longer for that one for sure. And then question 4 is the opposite. What's a fragrance you hated that you now love? And this was actually really easy for me because this did a complete 180. So I went through a whole journey with this. This is Dolce Garden by Dolce & Gabbana. This was very hyped, I think last year or so on, you know, fragrance YouTube and Fragcom in general. And when I first got it, it is still confusing. I will say that. It's definitely an interesting fragrance. The name doesn't match. The notes are kind of all over the place. But this is a very Gemini fragrance in my mind because it's literally got like 2 opposing sides to it that are kind of in constant battle. There's like the floral sweet side and like the coconut beachy side, and they kind of butt heads a little bit. And on the days that those notes aren't meshing, I hated this. And I think when I first got it, that's really all I could smell. But I started wearing it to bed after a while and I just fell in love with it. And now, even though those notes are still not always the most, I just feel like it's not really well blended. In my opinion, it feels like there's like 2 categories of notes in my nose and they're just kind of like butting heads. But I love it now. I don't know what it was, like it just clicked for me one day. I fell in love and now I'm 100% on the pro train for this. I will say, while not super expensive, this is not a safe blind buy. Don't go by the name, don't really even go by the notes. Even though it does smell like the notes, I feel like you really need to try this out. Unless you are an experienced blind buyer like I am, or you really don't mind and want to take a risk and you'll just sell it if you don't like it, I would say to definitely try before you buy. All right, so the next question is question 5, and that is, what is your favorite place to purchase fragrances online, and show an example. So out of every website that I buy fragrances online, the one that I've done the most amount of shopping from and that I'm most comfortable with is Fragrance Buy. I buy from them all the time. I really have had nothing but great experiences. And even when something doesn't work out for me, or like it could be a potentially difficult experience, because no matter what website you buy from, whatever you're buying online, eventually you're going to run into a problem. You need to return something, or a payment doesn't work out, or a coupon code, or what have you. That will happen no matter what. If you are used to buying stuff online, you know what I mean. And for me, that's not really what makes or breaks like an experience with a company. It's how they deal with it. Their customer service, like what plans they have in place, how responsive people are, because mistakes happen no matter what. So I just have had honestly, almost no issues whatsoever. And even when there have been issues, they've been like on my end, and I don't know how to I don't know how to put in a coupon code, or I don't know how to use a gift card, or something's not available and I'm wanting to see when it's gonna be back and be notified by email. I just have always had good experiences. So above all others, and I always have my personal coupon code for Fragrance Buy in the description box below. I also have for Perfume Online, because I buy from them a lot as well. Those are my top 2, but Fragrance Buy just ends up having a lot more that I want, and I'm just really, really, really comfortable with their website and everything. So I love them. I love them so much. And one of the reasons I love them, and that's the fragrance I chose to showcase as an example, is because they've got the goods. So this is Alien Essence Absolue, and this is a hard to find cookie. So this is a really, really beautiful flanker of Alien. I don't go out of my way to get every flanker available on Alien while I love the fragrance. I'm not that gal. But this is one I needed to get, and they've gotten it several times now throughout the past 2-3 years. And one of the times I picked one up, I would say they are pretty good about getting discontinued gems every once in a while. They have really good prices. It's only in Canada and the United States where you can purchase from. So I'm sorry if you don't obviously live in those 2 countries. But I would also say when these things show up, this is just my personal philosophy, you don't have to take it, but I would say there were definitely moments where I could have picked up more than one of a discontinued gem or just gone all out. And I just encourage people to be a little bit more cognizant of the fact that these discontinued gems are beloved by so many people, and to not go crazy. So I've never purchased a backup of that. I know how many people really look forward to getting it one day. So I hope if you are looking forward to it, you can. I personally just have that bottle. I will savor every drop. But that's just my own little personal advice, because I know I always get comments about it and people wanting to buy it. So I hope it works out. I only have the one, I have none to sell, and I've never purchased any more, but Fragrance Buy has been great about bringing it back every once in a while. And then question number 6 is, what is your favorite place to purchase fragrances in person, and then show an example. So I wanted to make these separate so that I could talk about my other favorite, which is in person, and that is Shoppers Drug Mart. So that's obviously just a Canadian thing, but I had to mention it for my Canadian viewers out there, and because so many of you, no matter where you watch my channel from, have seen me find great deals whenever I mention I found something on the $19.99 shelf. That is the store I'm referring to. So the example I chose to bring up is one of the best, the better ones that I found, and that's Flora Botanica by Balenciaga. the 100 mils. I, along with many other people, went on a wild hunt to pick these up. I actually, to kind of counteract what I just said about Alien Absolute, I do have a backup of this because I love this fragrance. And once things show up on the $19.99 shelves, I feel like fair game, because it's sometimes so difficult to find. I don't go crazy, I don't get like 7, but it's a little bit more fair game than Alien Absolute, which I want to give more people a shot at getting. Some people go a little bit more insane and get very lucky and will get like 8 all at once and be kind of set, and some folks can't really find them. I've definitely had ones where I wasn't able to find a $19.99 gem either in the moment, or I couldn't find it until way later. You have to be there for the hunt, and the hunt is part of fun, part of the fun of everything. But yeah, that is one of the greater ones, obviously, but the shelf always exists. So for those of you curious, like there's always fragrances there. It's just that more times than not, they are fragrances that are kind of around that price range anyways. You know, there are like celebrity fragrances or designer fragrances like Calvin Klein that are a little bit more expensive anyways. So it's really just of whether or not you're interested in picking them up. But I found some great ones, and there's definitely been ones that I have so missed out on just accidentally. Like Madonna fragrances used to be there, the Truth or Dares, the original and Naked, all the time for years, and I didn't pick them up. And now they're like impossible to find or so expensive. So you need to keep your eyes out for sure. Then question 7 is, what is a fragrance you couldn't live without? So I couldn't live without my entire collection, to be honest, but as you guys will have seen if you haven't already, I do have a quote-unquote signature scent now, which is Rubina by Bulgari, and I just had to pick her. She is my love, she is my everything. Obviously she can't be my signature scent that I wear every day because I'm drowning in fragrance, and I'm just not that kind of person to have only one. But if I had to, like if I needed to save, I just can't see myself ever living without this, honestly. So I hope they continue to make it forever. I do have 100 ml, so I'm set for a very long time, and you need so little of this to last you through the day. So it truly probably is there enough for a lifetime, but I love it. And if you like powdery, ambery fragrances, then I definitely recommend Rubina. And question number 8 is, what is the most overrated fragrance you own? And this was so easy. It was probably the one that came to me the quickest because it's La Vie est Belle by Lancôme. This fragrance, you guys, okay, I'm gonna spray it in the air because it actually has been a long time since I've smelled it. And it smells better the more gaps I wait in between smelling it again. But honestly, the hype and the amount of weeks and months, I guess, that this, or maybe even years, that this was in the top 3 top spot of most purchased fragrance, most purchased designer fragrance, like on the top lists of everything. And I would say much less so in like Fragcom and like our little fragrance communities where we're obsessive and wonderful, but more so just like general public loved this. And I don't know what kind of chokehold this had on people, but I never got it. I never did. I picked this up on a sale in a Marshalls, so I never would have picked it up full price. It was literally so good. I don't remember the price, maybe like a $39.99 or something. It was like way too good to pass up. So I picked it up, and I think it's the 100 ml. No, it's a 50 ml. It's the 50 ml, and I was like, might as well. I think it's just the eau de parfum. And I own it, but the patchouli in this, first of all, has that quality where it can smell like BO if I'm not, if I'm just not even careful, but if it's just an off day with my body chemistry. So there's few days out of the year that I want to smell it and few days out of the year that I can. And even on the best of days, which like today, it actually doesn't smell that bad, I just didn't get the hype. Like I will never understand the hype, Maybe it's just me, maybe I'm in the minority, but at best, it is a very mediocre fruit chewy, floral chewy fragrance. I don't know what came over the entire world with that, but to me, that is the most overrated fragrance. All right, so the last two fragrance questions kind of go hand in hand. They kind of match. So question number 9 is, what would you like to see less of in the fragrance world? And for me, this kind of came straight to mind, but this is more of like a generalized question. You can just say like a note you want to see less of, or a house, a type of fragrance that you're just over, or just like a notion, whatever it may be. But for me, this was very, very clear. And I hate, absolutely hate, when fragrance houses will make a fragrance, name it, whatever, fragrance A, and have the different formulations, like the eau de toilette, an eau de parfum, an essence de parfum, or a, you know, like an intense version, smell completely different to the original. I also hate it when they smell exactly the same, obviously, and in terms of performance as well, because then it's like, what's really happening? But my whole thing is, if you're making a fragrance and it's called the same thing, and you're just changing the strength of the formulation, so how much perfume oil actually exists in the fragrance, then, you know, essentially it should smell, in terms of like fragrance itself, in my opinion, between 80 to 100% of the same, like 80% to 100% of the same fragrance. That's really, like, it shouldn't be something completely different and you just call it the eau de parfum and call this one the eau de toilette. I'm sure they do have different, you know, strengths to them as well, but then just call that different fragrance a different thing, because I think it just confuses the market. It confuses the consumer. They shouldn't smell that different if they're supposedly the same fragrance, but different formulations or different strengths rather. And that really should be about how much perfume oil is in the fragrance. If something's the more intense, obviously there might be maybe some different notes in the base to make it a little bit more intense. There is some leeway, of course, but I hate it when they smell so different to the fact that you need to make a distinction when you could have just named them two different things. So there were a number of fragrances I could choose in my collection that I could have pulled out to make this point. One of them is Insolence. Like, I think My Insolence from the Insolence range is just a completely different scent, and I will never understand why that was named as such. But the one I actually chose to kind of prove this point further is Play for Her by Givenchy and Play Intense. To me, these smell very, very different. This is a little bit more of an intense, I would say a darker scent, but they smell different enough that like this could have been a different thing. I mean, maybe it's just me again. I'm happy to say it might be to my nose, but I don't know. They're both discontinued, so it's not really the end of the world. These are closer together in scent than My Insolence and Insolence. Insolence and My Insolence smell completely different. And I guess, you know, their names are kind of different, but in general, that is something I want to see less of in the fragrance community. I don't own a lot of fragrances like that I could show like a perfect example from. The Givenchy's are sort of a good example. The Insolence and My Insolence are sort of a good example, but they do have a little bit of a different name, I suppose. In general, they're definitely fragrances that I just either couldn't find in my collection or don't own, where the only difference is the strength of the eau de toilette or eau de parfum, but they smell totally different. And I just think it is annoying and consuming for the consumer personally. Rant over. Question 10, the last question, is what would you like to see more of in FragCom? So the opposite. And this was really easy for me as well. I mean, this is obviously a really personal answer. This might not be something that everyone out there is looking for, but I love violet as a note. And I think for a while, violet, especially powdery, candied violet was something that Guerlain was doing a lot of, and some more old like fragrance houses had done a lot of, but it was thought of as being a little bit more dated. Certainly not modern. And I just think it needs to make a comeback. So many powdery fragrances are really coming to market, and it's becoming a lot easier to find a powdery fragrance, especially like a, you know, like a more modern take on a powdery fragrance. And I would love to see more violet, powdery, candied fragrances come to market and come from houses that we haven't seen before. I've mentioned before how I think Parfum de Marly need to come out with like a lilac lavender shade to their women's bottles, and for them to do a candied violet. If they ever do, I've talked about it so much at this point that it should be named after me personally, but I just think they do a really good job with it. So I think they do a really good job, but so many like houses I think would be a great one. I chose a fragrance to kind of exemplify what sort of fragrance I mean, and that's L'Instant Magique, or Instant Magic, by Guerlain. It's definitely powdery and violety, but it's sort of cool and fresh at the same time. I adore this scent. It's definitely, you know, top 10 favorites of all time in terms of powdery scents. I think it's stunning, and so many more houses could do interesting things with violet, I think. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this new tag video. I hope that you will leave your answers in the comments below, or again, like if you make videos, I would love to see yours. Let me know if you've made your own. As always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye.